Good evening. Welcome to Wednesday. Tonight we're going to talk about mindfulness of thinking, which is the second foundation of mindfulness. But first, why don't we meditate for a while? And I would like to offer a tool. It's inevitable that when we're meditating that our mind is going to wander off. We're going to find ourselves thinking. That's okay, because the mind just does that. When you notice that, just say, thinking, quietly to yourself, like you're just naming it. That helps us not get involved in the content of what we're thinking about. Just noticing the phenomenon of thinking and just coming back to the breath. So, I invite you to find a comfortable meditation posture. And that's one in which you are awake, upright, if you're sitting up straight. If you're standing, your knee is slightly bent. If you're lying down, you might want to have your arms out in front of you, or at least one arm out in front of you, perpendicular to the floor. That helps you not fall asleep. Then lower your gaze, almost like you're looking down the bridge of your nose, just to relax the muscles in your eyes. And gently close your eyes. And let's start with a few slow, deep breaths. Just easy, deep, about 3/4, slow, deep breaths, just to connect to the breathing. And as you breathe out, just continue to relax and soften the body. And let your breathing return to normal. And continue as you breathe out on the exhale. Just relax and soften, relaxing the muscles around your eyes, relaxing the muscles of your face. Your face does a lot of work. relaxing your shoulders, and your chest and your belly. Just letting your belly hang. You spend a lot of time with a tight belly. For now, we're just letting go and having a soft belly. And let your attention come to the body breathing. Just noticing the sensations of the body breathing. Some people find it easy to focus on the sensations of the breath moving in and out of the nose. Some people find it easier to focus on the sensations of the chest or the belly moving up and down. Just letting your body breathe. Letting your awareness rest on the sensations of the body breathing. Mind wanders off in thought. When your mind wanders off in thought, that's okay. The mind just does that. Just notice thinking without getting involved in the content or the concerns of the thoughts. Just notice the phenomenon of thinking. And start over again with your breathing. If your mind wanders off, that's okay. The mind wanders around a lot. You can't do this wrong. The doing it is the doing it. It's a gentleness practice. So when you notice your thinking, just notice thinking. And come back to resting your awareness on your breathing. And as we come to the end of this sitting, may it be that the benefits of this practice, of this sitting meditation, enable us to look out on the world with kindness and compassion, and may it be that whatever benefits we have experienced or received from this practice radiate from us as kindness and compassion into our interactions with everyone we meet. And may that energy radiate out into your household and into your neighborhoods. And may the benefits of this practice be of benefit to all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings be at ease and at peace. Thank you for your practice. So, I'm thinking, and I may or may not notice that I'm thinking. And I may or may not notice that what I'm thinking is kind of coloring my mood and how I'm perceiving things in the moment. And the mind kind of does that all the time. One of the things my thinking mind does is it describes my experience. And what I have learned, and what I've found to be true, is that our experience is in two parts. Here's what happens, here's what we tell ourselves about what happens. These are separate. I think most people don't know that. Here's what happens. Something happens. My neighbor is mowing his lawn across the street. Here's what we tell ourselves about what happens. The first thought is, well, that's a little inconvenient. I'm just trying to meditate here. And then the next thought is, it's just the real world. And the thing about that is, here's what happens, here's what we tell ourselves about what happens. The Hopi Indians believe that in every situation there's 88 possibilities. I don't know how they came up with that. I don't really care, but I like it. What I have chosen to believe about that is that if you lay an 8 on its side, it's the symbol for infinity, so maybe there's infinite possibilities. And the Hopis have a ritual where they will make someone jump up and down on one leg until they can name all 88. And don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do that. If you decide to do that, let me know. I'll bring my phone over to your house and I'll videotape it and put it on my Facebook page. But here's what happens, and here's what we tell ourselves what happens. There are 88 possibilities on this side. Here's an example. What am I doing? Some of you think I'm just holding up my hand. Now what am I doing? Some of you are thinking, Ken may be losing his mind, or he's annoyed, or he's flipping us off. Some of you may know he's just making a point. Some of you have decided that I'm an a-hole. You all know what this means out in the regular world. But here's the other piece of it. I have an injury right here. It's an old tendonitis injury from my full-time writing days. And every now and then the tendon catches right here. There's a little tunnel here. It's like the carpal tunnel. So sometimes when I go like this, I have to physically go like this because this finger gets stuck. And all I did was demonstrate that. And I'm guessing that most of you have some other narrative attached to that. Here's another example. I don't know if there are any deadheads here, but Jerry Garcia, when he played guitar, held his pick like this. And there were people who thought he was surreptitiously either flipping off the crowd or flipping off the larger culture or whatever it is. But this is just what he did. He never really thought about it. And the truth is, we can change this narrative anytime. And that's the important part. To notice when we are thinking. And notice how we are describing our experience. And we can change that narrative anytime. And if you watch this thought stream, if you watch the thinking mind and observe it, there are some things you'll notice. It has certain qualities that are always predictable. One is it's always on. It's like I call it the radio station of your mind. It's always on, it's always loud. And it defaults negative. There's actual evolutionary neurobiology behind that, but it is the structure of that part of the mind to default to a negative position. It has to do with the way the hippocampus acts. It's almost never in the present moment. It's always in the past, ruminating about how we screwed something up or that didn't go very well, or in the future, as often as not, predicting disaster. And another thing about it that you might notice, it can't stay on topic. If you really watch it, one thing you'll notice, it's not really very interesting. And it's always moving around from one thing to the next. And that's why some people call it the monkey mind, because monkeys can't sit still. If you've been around monkeys, I was in India some years ago, and there are a lot of monkeys, and monkeys are in constant motion, and this part of the mind is in constant motion. And the other part of it is this part of the mind would have you believe that it's all of who we are. Just by virtue of being the loud part. It's the part we're most aware of. It's the part we hear the most. But it's not. If you were to look at your mind as like a very large circle, and say there's two bands running through the middle of it, okay? And the upper part is the upper consciousness, and the lower part is the lower consciousness, and we're not aware of that most of the time, but it affects us. And in the middle is the middle consciousness, which is where we live. This is the part of our minds that we're aware of and how we perceive the world around us. And as we become more awake and enlightened and aware, the middle consciousness actually expands. But in the middle of the middle, there's this thin line. It's so thin, you can barely see it. That's the thought stream. It's this thin line running through the vastness of the mind. And it would tell you it's who you are. But it's not. It's just like little baubles moving through the space that is you. And the more we become aware of the fact that we are describing our experience, and it's not necessarily our experience, it's a description, and the more we become aware of how we really are as opposed to how we describe how we are, the better we feel about ourselves and our lives. And the easier it is to navigate. Cheri Huber, the Zen teacher, California Zen teacher, in her book, The Key, and the name of the key is willingness, puts it really well. The ways you think you are, not the ways you really are the bars of your own personal prison. Please recall, just because you think something is so, that you are bad, selfish, ugly, brilliant, superior, or inadequate, doesn't mean it's so. It only means you think it's so. The way you think you are is not the way you are. It's just the way you think you are. And when we learn through the mindfulness process to step back and we can observe the thinking mind, we start to notice we're actually more still than we think we are, and it's easier to be more compassionate. And we start to notice that maybe we're creating a world that doesn't work for us so well. In the opening passages of the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. If I feel like I'm a bad person, if I think I'm a bad person, and I keep reinforcing that with my thought stream, then I'm going to feel bad about myself. When I notice that I'm doing that, and I can actually look at the reality of how I behave and navigate in the world, it's just a phantom. So, my neighbor's mowing the lawn while I'm meditating, and I have a thought that says, this is not okay. But I have another thought that says, well, this is okay, because everything is okay in the mindful field while you're meditating. Everything is just sort of things that you notice and you bring to awareness, and I can choose which one of those works for me. Silence is not necessary to meditate. I was in Bodh Gaya, India. I've been there twice. It's where the Buddha was enlightened. It's a pilgrimage site. It is not quiet. India is not quiet. It's noisy, and you can hear cars and there's stuff. It's not necessary to have silence to meditate. And all things that occur in practice are just things that are in the field of awareness. This is especially helpful for people who have chronic pain. And I have some experience with that. I had oral surgery earlier this year, and it was difficult. And I had to constantly catch myself in the days that followed when I was having some pain. I was always noticing I'm going at some version of, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is terrible. And I had to really practice. This is just really uncomfortable. It's going to pass, and I'm still okay. The more I separate the oh my God from what's really happening, the easier it gets. We practice noticing. It's like meditation. It's like mindfulness. We practice it like practicing the violin. The more we notice that we're in some sort of thought stream that doesn't serve us. Here's another example. I was on retreat at a place called Cloud Mountain, which is a really beautiful retreat center in southern Washington state. Probably day 3 or 4 of the retreat. This beautiful wooden deck out in the woods, in the lush green forest that had rained recently. It's just really lush. And I'm sitting there quietly. And I hear it. I hear my thinking mind. I hear the thought stream say, you're screwing up. This isn't okay. And the thinking mind has certain default positions, usually based on stuff we grew up with. And that's one of mine is that I'm screwing up. But it was like such a revelation to me. It's like, oh my God, what could I possibly be screwing up? I am literally just sitting here for no other reason than just to sit here. And Mara, the god of illusion, was always trying to stop Buddha from being awakened. And Buddha looked at Mara when that happened, when he noticed Mara, and said, I see you, Mara. Let's have tea. And this was like a vision of Mara I'm sitting here doing nothing except sitting here, and I'm hearing my thinking mind telling me this is not okay. And it was certainly okay. It just does that. And one of the things that you can gain from this practice is remembering that we don't always feel okay. But that doesn't mean we're not okay. I wake up in the morning, I'm a little sore, I've got issues with my back. I hear the thought stream say, this is going to be a crappy day. But not necessarily, because it usually passes in about 10 minutes. I might be depressed, I might be sad, I might have something going on that's difficult. This awareness enables us to remember that we are in fact okay even if we don't feel okay. Here's what happens. Here's what we tell ourselves what happens. And we can decide at any time to tell ourselves, this is difficult, but I'm still okay. So, I invite you to explore a more gentle voice, a voice of self-compassion. Because when we're in these moments, they really are an opportunity for self-compassion. To remind yourself you may not be feeling okay, but you are in fact okay. To remember that what happens and what we tell ourselves about what's happening are separate, and we can decide anytime to change this narrative into some version of, I'm okay, I'm doing the best I can, and I'm all right. Even if it feels like a difficult moment. So, I thank you for your kind attention. I will be back again on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock and next Wednesday at 6:30. Thank you.